Welcome to Just the Who of Us, hosted by reahhagues. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations around mental health, life journeys, holistic wellnesses, and the experiences that shape who we are. Take a breath, settle in, and join Reah and today's guests as we explore the stories that connect us.
Welcome back to Just the Who of Us. And today we have Anfisa with us. Anfisa is a love, sex, and relationship coach. And it's funny how we kind of connected. My co host for another podcast that I do, you were actually on his show. And I saw like reels for the show, and then he connected us. And so I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to have you here to have this conversation. I've already seen other podcasts that you've been on, and I'm like, I want to talk to her. So thank you for being here.
A pleasure to be in your space. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about intimacy and boundaries and how to enlighten more through losing ourselves. And it sounds kind of backwards, right? How to
Yeah.
enlighten more through losing ourselves. But it really is a spectacular concept. And so I appreciate you being here to share it. Tell us a little bit about your background and what kind of got you into this space.
You know how the greatest healings come through personal journeys and personal struggles? That's
Right.
kind of one of those. Of what I do and what I offer the world is so deeply rooted into my own experience, what I've been through, the struggles that I faced, and a lot of the darker corners of existence that I had to deal with a lot on my own with the inspiration of being like, I'd love other people to be supported through this. Like, we shouldn't struggle so much. There should be help out there. And it all started from just noticing that there was a pattern in my relationships that kept coming up. There was a struggle and a fear to connect deeper, to trust, and like almost, when you let another person in, like under your skin into those vulnerable parts of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw that come up so often, and how I was in the moment making it the other person's fault, and like gracefully, not so gracefully, walking out of the relationship, hurting a lot of hearts, but also myself. And that just kept on repeating and repeating up until like my early 20s, when I went to travel and I decided to just, run away from Cyprus, and Cyprus is where I'm based, back to Asia, or forward to Asia rather, hoping that none of my problems come in my suitcase. But they
Mm-hmm.
did. They did. They followed me. I was sat on the cliffs of like Uluwatu in Bali, looking at this incredible sunset and just struggling with the same pieces of my heart and with the
Mm-hmm.
same inability to open myself up to trust, to feel safe in another person's presence. And feeling also very lonely through that process. So at some point, when I got honest with having love towards a very good friend of mine that we were already in friendship with for 4 years, in that trip through COVID, right? You can't catch a plane to go see them and talk to them, but you get this crazy realization of being like, oh my God, I think the love I've been looking for everywhere has literally been next to me
Mm-hmm.
all this time. And to highlight, this was through
Yeah.
a long period of like celibacy and just zooming into myself, into my inner world. Right? I was working with coaches, I was working with like plant medicines, I was facilitating a few things, but also sitting with a lot of my own shadows.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just called him up and I told him that. And when he put me in front of the commitment of, I don't want to break up. If you want this, this is like, we're here forever, over the phone. And I was like, oh shit, I've been called out in all my
Right.
fears, all of the things I've been struggling with, right? And bear in mind, I didn't have physical intimacy with him to commit to forever,
Right.
right? And then I was like, okay, it's now or never, let's do it. And through that commitment came the responsibility of realizing that the other person is no longer the problem, but I am.
Yeah.
And after years of being in that relationship, I think we were together for, let me rewind, 2 years before I fell pregnant with our son. And that's when responsibility doubled,
Right.
because holding the value of being a good mom, bringing up the next generation with less trauma than what we've been brought up with.
Right.
I've realized that the health of my relationship was the most crucial and important part. And I seemed to be the person that was sad the most, that struggled with physical intimacy the most, that was scared to love more, open up more, share my vulnerable sides, explore my vulnerable sides. And I decided to just go deep into that. And my biggest struggle was the sexual realm and like just the creeping shame in my body of like thinking, oh my God, what if I'm seen as a slut? And like in my Russian upbringing, right? So I come through from a very normal Russian family with like asexual ideas about life, that sex doesn't exist, all of this is dirty, no strippers, no sluts, like none of this is acceptable.
Gotcha.
Right? And then being like in
Gotcha.
lovemaking with my husband, who my partner became my husband. That's a backward story, but maybe that's for another day. I realized that I am that person that I was fearing, through my childhood that I might end up. And then that clash
Right.
inside my own mind and my own identity was like overwhelming and like breaking me from inside and pulling me
Yeah.
away from the person that was opposite me. So, yeah, I just zoomed in onto the sexual realm, went to study that for a year and a half and like deep through my own skin, but also through coaching and practicing and working with other people and seeing what actually works with the methodology of Layla Martin. She's incredible in this. She's been years and years in this field. And yeah, now I'm on the other side feeling like, oh my God, this is the best thing I did for myself,
Yeah.
my relationship, and for my son.
First, I think the best coaches teach from lived experience. And honestly, I don't know that you can be a successful coach without teaching through lived experience. You can be, a teacher, an educator, but not a coach. I think the best coaches teach through lived experience. And it's really, what I've found to be kind of their coming into most people's coming into story of why they do this is through experience that they had. And so I don't know that honestly I'd interview someone who was like, well, I haven't gone through this, but I teach people. You know what I mean? It's just like it's a requirement of coaching. Like you have to have lived through it. And a lot of coaches coach on things like difficult, deep things that they've lived through. My interest in family relationship coaching came from my own healing and journeys with my own family. Never before I did that would I have thought about coaching other people on relationships, familial relationships, parenting, and things like that. And so I always love when people have a good, solid, deep, this is why story. And I want to spend a little time kind of diving into the intimacy and
Mm-hmm.
boundaries because I don't know that a lot of people really understand what real intimacy is. Real intimacy is not necessarily about having sex. It's really much deeper than that. And I think that you can have can have a lot of relationships where your intimacy is physical and it just kind of stops there. But our most successful relationships are when our intimacy is more than just physical, especially romantic relationships. We always kind of come back to our traumas in our life or traumas that we carry as adults, things that we experience as children. You can go through trauma as an adult, absolutely. But most of our kind of intimacy related issues, whether it be with family, friends, sexual partners, it usually stems from some kind of trauma we experienced in childhood. It changes our brain chemistry. It changes the way we see the world. And going to therapy and really diving into my traumas from a childhood, and I don't mean just like, oh, my mom had rules, like actual trauma, sexual trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma. Diving into these things, it really, I mean, I have children with 3 different men. So clearly I had intimacy issues, trust issues, lots of issues, right? But it wasn't really until later in life that I realized, oh, it wasn't just them. Like I am the common denominator. And for me, I thought it was just, well, I just don't take anybody's shit. So when I see that you aren't doing your job, I'm out of here. And so they were the issues because they didn't do their job. And I wasn't, I was the common denominator, but I wasn't the issue because I just wasn't taking their shit. And that's okay. But when you really dive into it, like it is, relationships include both people. So like I was responsible too. So, taking that information, learning why I have these quote unquote issues that I have really helped form my current marriage. And, kind of putting in that effort to say, hey, these things, they're not healthy things. They're infecting, they're affecting, kind of infecting too.
Yeah.
Our intimacy as a whole, our trust, our physical, like, am I paying attention to the things that he values emotionally? Am I paying attention to, his communication, his preferred communication, my love language, his love, like, do I care about any of these things? Because that's part of it too. Like, how much am I willing to put into making my partner happy? What makes me happy? What are their boundaries? Do I have boundaries? Do I have too many boundaries? Do I have not enough? It's a whole thing.
It's very
So
true.
yeah, it's a complex thing, but it's important to answer all these questions for yourself. And most of the time, we don't even know these answers. Most of the time, it's through doing the work and really committing to understanding ourselves is when we find these answers. And that, kudos to you in your 20s, because that usually doesn't come for a lot of people until 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even older.
Yeah, well, thank you. I feel like I was so amazed by the idea that our brain is much more malleable the younger we are. Although I think
Right.
we can change the way we think, the way we act at any age of our life with our will and commitment.
Right.
I think
I
being
agree.
so fascinated by that, I've been really moving forward with trying to shape myself now as much as I possibly can. I don't know, maybe I have issues around that, but it really is my passion, right? It really is my passion. And going back like to intimacy, what you said, I feel intimacy is not only, like you said, physical closeness, but it's deeper. We need to be able to have an emotional and almost like spiritual closeness. I mean, mental closeness is
Yeah.
something that we can put our finger on quite easily with a good conversation, with feeling understood, interested in what topic is being discussed. I feel this is
Right.
easier in our world today, but I feel emotional, this deep emotional spiritual closeness is something that is cultivated. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing that cultivates this is love and courage.
Yeah.
And we were in the spa with a very good friend of mine. We were discussing this, and I shared with her something that came to me. And it was how beautiful it is to sit in front of another person, a loved one, and share with courage your vulnerable parts, the ones that you feel like are trash, that you just want to get out. You want to get rid of,
Right.
but you can't because they're pieces of you.
Right.
And then see in the eyes of the person opposite you love and acceptance and a peacefulness that reflects back and shows you that this is exactly why they love you. This is exactly why you are you. And the
Yeah.
uniqueness isn't just in our quirks and how we dress and those pointy shoes we wear, but in the way that we experience life and the things we struggle with within ourselves.
Yeah.
And on one side of this equation is the courage to share these aspects of you. And on the other side is the ability to receive and love someone very different,
Yeah. Yeah.
someone with a very different mindset, and find this balance between having to have it your way and
Mm.
letting someone live their own experience. Like in my mind, I don't understand, let's say, how my partner can look for a thing, for it to be right in front of him, and for him to never find it. In my world, this does not exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just like instilled in male genetics. I don't know what it is.
It's so cute. It's so cute. Honestly, I'm always shouting from the other side of the house. I'm like, it's in front of you.
Right.
And most of the times I'm right. It's funny. But the point isn't about being right here, but about, let's say, realizing that this is just how they are. This is how they're shaped, and letting them like occupy their own bubble of how they
Yeah.
experience the world, and not trying to change them, shift them, coach them. Like never coach
Right.
your partner. This ruins intimacy. This creates a power struggle. There's a dynamic of power that starts to be created. Never
Definitely.
ever ever do that. Like let them hit their head on the wall over and over again if they need to,
Yeah.
but be there with care, with love, with support. So, love, courage, I feel they build the space of intimacy, and mostly this emotional intimacy where you get to be seen in aspects of you that probably the rest of the world didn't understand, rejected, blamed you
Right.
for, right? And usually, like you already mentioned, it sometimes starts from our families, even. Can start from school. A lot of the
Yeah.
things I've been dealing with has been through like friend groups and all of those weird dynamics. But a lot of our stuff also comes from our parents.
Right.
And I love this part because people come into sex, love, and relationship coaching and they're like, okay, so like, am I gonna have better orgasms? Like, how am I gonna behave in the bedroom? Like all of this, yes. And let's look at your mommy daddy relationships. Like, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, let's talk about sex, mom and dad in the same room of like coaching session.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not in the session, but like visiting that space, and they're like, wow, it's much deeper than I
Yeah.
ever thought. I'm like, yes, but this is where everything stems from. We're kids and adult
Right.
bodies, and we need to give ourselves the space for
Yeah.
that.
It's interesting that you say that because I wrote an autobiography about 10 years ago. I started writing it about 10 years ago. And it was through that, and I was in school for psychology. So a combination of these two things that I realized that like daddy issues is a real thing. Because, and like my relationship with my father directly correlated with my relationship with men, all these things, things that I'd heard. And I'm like, oh, that's bullshit. That's not really true. It's just something that people say. And through education and diving into my own past, I was like, oh, there really is a correlation to this. The relationships that we see and watch and feel when we're children, oftentimes we either one mirror that or we work to do the complete opposite. Um, I was married at 19, 20, right after I turned 20. And I got pregnant with my third child then. I spent a lot of time, like my relationship with my father was kind of up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But my father and my mother's relationship, I don't remember ever being around the two of them in the same room, ever, my whole life. Now, they were together until I was like 2. But I don't remember most of my childhood, and that's part that I don't remember. Could it be because maybe they were fighting or these other things happened? I don't know. But they split when I was 2. Um, and so, and I didn't realize that about myself until in my 30s, maybe close to 40, that I didn't have a memory of my parents being together and how significant that was in, how I perceived relationships, how I perceived intimacy in general. The two people who created me, I don't have a memory of them being intimate on any level. And so, and that's not to fault either one of them. You know, my father remarried, and I think that that was his soulmate, and that's okay. Um, you know, but it forever kind of left my mom feeling damaged a little bit, and she never remarried. I don't recall her ever dating. I mean, she's still alive. My father's he passed, but it's just these dynamics from your childhood. They really do play a part, you know, in how you navigate your relationships as a child all the way up to an adult. Um, I I've been divorced. I've been married once, and divorced, and now I'm married on my second and final marriage. But you know, our relationship is so different than my relationship with my first husband, my relationship with two of my children's fathers. And it really does. The relationships that you witness as a child, they really do shape your relationships as an adult. For me, a teenager, because I started having children very young, so my relationships as a teenager and adult. But for most people who have children later than their teens, you know, um, and then also you throw children into the mix, and that changes your relationship too. But I noticed for me that once I started having children, I wanted my relationships to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
How
and I
different?
don't know that I actually noticed it with after having my first son, because I was so young and all I knew was single motherhood. My grandmother
Mm.
was a single mother. My mom was a single mother. I became a single mother. And so it was this pattern, that I also didn't recognize until my 30s. And but once I had my second child, I really wanted to have that child in a committed relationship. And I had my first 2 children. I was in a committed relationship, or so I thought, but I was very young. So to me, a relationship where someone is showing me what I perceive as love, that's a committed relationship. You know what I mean?
Of
Like you're
course.
so young, you're like, oh, he loves me because he's nice to me, whatever the case may be. And then that didn't work out. I found out he had multiple other women pregnant at the same time. So that was fun. But by the time I had my third child, I was married. I said, okay, this is what I want. I want my children all of my children to have both parents, two parents who they see love each other. And
Mm-hmm.
it became more and more important to me the older I got, and it just it does, I think, also, like I said, putting children into the mix. You start to kind of, oh, okay, what do I want them to see? Because what I saw affected me in this way, and I don't want that for them, you know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, it's super important. And, sometimes there's a difference between s- what you show and what children can pick up on as feeling. And kids are
Right.
incredible at feeling the truth in any room with any human because they still don't have any filters. So
Yeah.
I would, if I may, like, it's about showing through feeling,
Right.
sharing the feeling of love, sharing the feeling of care at home, the feeling of protection and this collaborative family space. And it's not going to be perfect,
Right.
right? You're gonna fight, you're gonna argue, but it's about also actively being able to go through repair rather than hanging on to those pieces and like letting them slowly build up and slowly destroy the trust and the attraction and the love that you have towards a person. Things is
Yeah.
important to talk about, but to learn how to digest them. And this is where you asked me about like what's tantric,
Yeah.
and it for me it is a deeper relationship with your feelings and energy within your body, where every emotion has the potential to get you towards or closer to enlightenment. Basically, in simple words, anything you're feeling can be a portal to feel good.
Mm.
Anything. And it's about learning how to move through the portal of I feel so frustrated, my heart is closed, I can't look at you, get out of this room. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's how do I navigate this space that feels like a rigid block? How do I actually feel good when I right now feel absolutely terrible?
Yeah.
And the tantric way is learning to use your body, your awareness, your energy, also in some cases, right? Your sexual energy, and it's something that I also teach people with at the later stage of working with me to move and work with whatever it is that you're feeling. Even when you're in the same room with your partner, you don't have to be alone, right? But learning tools that slowly can help you return back, digest this. So move from being triggered to
Mm-hmm.
feeling it. The feeling is
Mm-hmm.
very important because we usually like, oh my God, I feel so much. I just need to get my phone. I need to have a glass of wine. I just need to run away, go for a
Right.
run. But it's
Yeah.
like learning to face it, learning to find the middle stillness. And it's like the tantric channel, which you can refer to as to the seven chakras, or basically where your spine is, like the center point, all the
Mm-hmm.
way up to the top of your head, and learning to sit in the center, knowing that all of this can shift and change, but I can always go back to feeling good within myself.
Yeah.
So this is the tools, and I find it so powerful, and I'm so amazed by the feeling and emotional world because I feel this is the place that gets ruined before people split. This is the
Yes.
place that gets ruined before we lose physical intimacy.
Yes.
This is the place that pain starts to build up in, and it's
Mm-hmm.
invisible. We don't see it. We sometimes don't even notice it if we're not really aware of ourselves, which is so easy to not be, in our world today. It passes your awareness. So easy to, you know, change your awareness to something else, forget about it for a while, and then boom, you're in front of your partner. It's that
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, you have free time, and you don't want to be close to them. And you're
Right.
like, what? What happened? It wasn't like this in the beginning. Yes, because in the beginning, you didn't have all of this baggage of feeling that built up over the last 5, 10 years, however long you've been together,
Yeah.
that just hasn't been digested. And this is why I feel tantric tools are very, very, but modern tantric tools, right? There's also classical tantra, and that's the different end of the equation. For our modern generation and for our modern world, they're incredible to work with this invisible world of emotions.
I think relationships start to collapse when communication ceases. And not just verbal communication, more so verbal communication, but not just verbal communication. For sexual, emotional relationships, that could also be communicating with each other's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But communication lapse is where, relationships start to crumble. We're not, and I mean more so effective communication, because we can communicate and yell and scream at each other all day long. That relationship's already started to crumble if that's how we're communicating. But when effective communication, starts to lapse, then relationships start to crumble. And it can be other types of relationships, familial, parental. I can tell a difference when I'm communicating with my kids and when I'm just communicating kind of at them, or, just responding to things. And so I think, I preach communication in all relationships, but intimacy as a form of communication, and the tantric focus is brilliant. Because it's not just teaching to say words at each other. It's teaching, first of all, starting yourself. You have to start processing your own feelings and feeling your own feelings and things like that. And we really can't understand other people if we don't understand ourselves first. We can't understand our relationship if we can't understand ourselves first. So I think that's really important. And I appreciate, the work that you do. I love this approach because it's not an approach that I have people come on and talk about often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Generally in relationship coaching, the focus is kind of just communicate
Yes.
or, learn about yourself to explore your traumas, and, but this is a different approach that I'm very glad that I had the chance to have you come on and talk about.
Yeah. No, pleasure. And as you're speaking about communication, if I can add something
Hmm.
that I feel is very important, you're right. A lot of relationship coaches talk about, like, oh, there needs to be communication. Psychologists, you need to communicate. Well, great. But how can you communicate about what you feel if you have no freaking clue why you feel it, what triggered it, what part of you is suffering in this moment?
Yeah,
And also, if you're unable to hold this piece of you, and this is so, so important, because
yeah,
I feel there's a capacity in our nervous system to be able to hold ourselves that is very important. Because if we can't, we become toddlers
hmm,
with unregulated prefrontal cortexes, right? The front part of the brain that
hmm,
cannot regulate emotion and needs someone else outside of them to
yeah,
co-regulate with them, right? Co-regulation with your partner, great things. But if you start to rely upon that, it will be like a mother son, father daughter relationship. You're gonna
yeah, yeah,
drop into the familiar settings and traumas that you were going through when you were a kid. And guess what? This ruins sex life. This ruins the
right,
charge of like magnetism between the two people.
yeah,
It
yeah,
becomes like an obligation to be there. So it's our responsibility to be in our capacity to expand our capacity, one, to hold ourselves and everything we are struggling with, so that we can enter communication and actually not communicate at them and demand and blame, like you said, but
yeah,
to sit and be like, right, so I'm going through this and I wanted to share with you what I've been feeling and seeing. And it's so crazy because when you say that thing, I just blow up with anger. And like, I see that I'm reacting to that, right?
Yeah.
And instead
Yeah.
of, oh, when you say this thing, you don't realize I feel like that, and you have no clue what I'm going through, and "Hmm, you're supposed to change what I say." And it's also, right, about having the capacity then on the other side to be able to hold another, accept another, because you can work on yourself and know what's going on with you, but if you do not expand your capacity for love,
Mm-hmm.
your capacity for trust, and for forgiveness, because you're dating a human being, not a perfect,
Right.
human, they're going to cross your boundaries. They're
Yeah.
going to break your heart. They will, right?
Yeah.
Sorry to break it to you, but they will. So it's about learning, again, finding that middle point within you that you feel safe within yourself, so that the outside is something that you can attend to rather than to like grasp on and become that toddler.
You when my husband and I first started, when we first moved in together, I remember him saying to me at one point, he's like, "You're talking to me right now like I'm one of your kids telling me what to do, and I don't like it." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize I did that." Like,
Mm-hmm.
single mom for a while, I I don't know, I guess I just boss everybody around, like, didn't even know that I did it. I was like, "Oh, that's not our dynamic then." You know, like, didn't know I was doing that. My bad. And I, like, I don't do that now. I don't think I do that now. He hasn't said it to me again, but, it is one of those things, like, and also to be able to say things like that to your partner, like, "Hey,
Yes.
you're doing this to me right now, and I don't like that," and to be able
Yes.
to hear it and not, "No, I'm not." We like to get defensive sometimes, and, "Oh, sorry. Didn't realize I was doing that. I will work on that."
Yeah, and it's so hard to hear that, right? Because you're like, no, that's not true. What do you mean? I'm not speaking like this. And
Right,
then comes, well, if the other person is experiencing that, that means that it's true. It's in
right.
the air because they are responding to that. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
feels horrible, but it's the truth, and we need to look at it. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like a really like ego dismantling part, because
Right,
you're like, oh, I think I'm doing everything right in my life. And then your partner's like, well, you've been like a little bit of a bastard today.
right,
You know, you haven't been attending to the house the last 3 days. All my boxers are. I'm like, oh my God. And I think I'm rocking at
right.
all the things that I do. It's like, oh my God, I'm not. I haven't done the washing.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a great relationship to have when you can tell each other things like that,
Yes.
and it not like ruin your relationship. Because that means that we are also working as individuals on our boundaries and our communication, and that's
Yes.
great.
Yes, yes. Like the relationship is a bubble of two separate bubbles. It's important. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like one mess of a connection where my emotions are your emotions, your problems and my problems. Like, no, you're two consciousnesses, you're two different human beings, you're two bodies, you're two different
Right,
beating hearts. And it's
right,
very important to realize the individuality of one, yourself, right? When your partner is going through a very hard day and you feel triggered, you feel restless, you feel anxious, you're picking up on their feelings and almost trying to fix them so that your life gets better. I've been there so much, like being someone that
yeah,
feels deeply. And it's like, okay, how do I learn? Again, it's all about like nervous system capacity, tantric tools come in here. How do I learn to be in my space, in my bubble, and not have to codepend constantly, and just
yeah,
allow them the space for them to have their human experience today? I'm not saying for a month, right? If they're
right,
doing this for a month, call them the fuck out,
right,
right? They'll be grateful to you. But
right.
if they're going through something, give them the space to go through it.
Yeah,
Just like they need to learn to do that for you, right? And I
right,
feel it's so important nowadays to focus on what am I getting? What am I getting from this relationship is the modern, hype. I was like, what are they able to give me? What are they able to provide me with? What do
right,
I gain? How will I look? La 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 la. and to focus on like what am I capable of giving?
Mm-hmm.
What is my capacity?
Yeah.
And expanding your capacity of how much you can hold, how much you can give. Because if we're only trying to get some things from each other, like, okay, fix your day, fix your mood so I can be okay, kind of dynamic,
Right.
it's not going to be a nice space to be in and to exist in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we are coming up on our time, but let everybody know where they can find you.
Oh, I'd love to. So my main platform is Instagram right now. It's at Anfisa Shimkevich, literally my name with a dot in the between my first name and last name. This is where I post all of my juicy thoughts and advice and the free content that changes your life. And in my links, there is a way to book a discovery call with me where we can chat about where you are and yeah, see how you can transform in this beautiful space that I offer.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Just the Who of Us. We hope today's conversation offered reflection, comfort, or a moment of clarity. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who may need it. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you're not alone in the journey.